you have the knowledge and the inside wisdom that you need to be safe in what's happening in the economy today? Well, my guest is Matt Rettick, and he's the author of a best-selling book, All the Rules Have Changed. Matt, thanks for being here with us.
Kristen, I'm excited to be back again with you.
So it seems like the economy has just been a roller coaster the last couple years. And what has that done for people and their finances?
Well, it's topsy-turvy, really. Many people thought they had equity in their homes, suddenly find out they're upside down. The stock market gains were lost in 08, 09. They're just hoping to gain back what they lost. And there's just so much instability and unpredictability that they're really having a hard time making things work out financially.
I think it can be scary because it used to be not too long ago, everyone was like, wow, I've got tons of equity in my house, I have money in savings, you know, I can live this bigger life. And now all of a sudden, that's not the reality.
That's exactly right. And you add to that the fact that, you know, pension plans, which were our stability of our financial future, are non-existent.
Wow.
Social Security is unstable. The government's sending out more money every year in benefits and taking in taxes. So the kind of the financial pillars we used to have for our future have kind of disintegrated.
So what can someone do?
Well, there's an 8-word great saying most of us know: if it's to be, it's up to me. And so we really have to take upon ourselves the task of reducing debt, saving consistently, investing wisely, delayed gratification, have the right insurance, the right legal documents in place to cover what I call the potholes of life as you travel down the road of life, to be sure that you're driving just as smoothly as possible in your financial future.
You know, and the thing about potholes is they come unexpectedly.
Yes. Yeah, one of my chapters is preparing for the unexpected. You know, we need to, in life and in business, to expect the best in life, but you have to be prepared for the worst. And so it's very important that you are prepared for those events in life that come your way that you weren't planning on.
You know, I've heard this story so many times. You know, you think that you're fine, you're moving along, and then this unexpected thing happens, and suddenly you find yourself in a financial crisis. What's your advice to just make sure that when the unexpected things come up, that you're still safe?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, we've all heard that we should have an emergency fund. Now, building an emergency fund is not fun. I mean, you're putting money away that you're never going to use unless there's really an emergency. And you should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses there in case you lose your job, somebody gets hurt, you get laid off, a number of the kids move back in, or your parents come in the house.
That is an emergency.
Yeah, that is a real, wasn't expecting that one, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But it happens all the time. Now, in addition to that, and the other thing we hate to pay for is insurance. And I always say we hate to pay insurance premiums until we have a claim.
Right.
But there's certain types of insurance besides home and auto insurance. You might need to have a long-term care policy, life insurance, disability, an umbrella policy. So if those unexpected things come your way, you are covered.
One of the things that I learned recently that was amazing to me is that you can be severely underinsured. Like you can have insurance, but it's not enough to cover anything.
Right.
And the incremental cost of being completely insured is what, $20 a month more sometimes?
Yeah, it's kind of comical. You watch some of these auto insurance companies. For the minimum coverage, call ABC. You think, oh, good, I'll have insurance.
Right.
It's so minimal. If you hit somebody, somebody hits you, they don't cover anything.
Right.
So you have to really ask questions. It's like an umbrella policy that is an umbrella over your homeowners and your auto insurance to have. And you can get increments from $1 million to $5 million. You might think, well, that's a lot of money. I've already got home and auto. Why have an umbrella policy? Because each of those policies have very low limits. And if you hit someone and it's $1 million claim and your auto insurance only covers $100,000,
right,
you're like, well, who pays the $900,000 that's left? You do, unless you have an umbrella policy. And $1 million umbrella policy is an average of $150 a year.
Wow.
So you want to protect against the unexpected things in life.
One of the things I like so much about your book, All the Rules Have Changed, is because of your background, and we'll get into that in a second, you really take people step by step through all the ways that you can build what you call a financial fortress.
Exactly, exactly.
And why do you think most people just don't understand that they need to do all these different steps?
Well, first of all, it's not fun. We would like to do things that are fun. You know, I mean, if you don't have the cash, you got the credit card, so I'll go get it now. It's instant gratification versus delayed gratification. And that's what's really caused us to be upside down in our homes, in our cars, a little bump in the road, you get laid off, or you have no job, or the company closes, goes overseas, and suddenly you're about this close to bankruptcy. So it takes discipline to reduce, eliminate debt, discipline to save consistently. I believe in the philosophy, pay yourself first. And people should be paying themselves first. Really 10 to 15% of their income should be set aside for savings, but at least maybe start with 1 or 2%. And then you have to go from there as far as investing wisely, having, again, the proper legal documents in place, insurance, and just being what I call a savvy investor and smarter consumer.
Let's talk about the D word, okay, debt.
Debt.
I mean, in the times that we've been in recently, a lot of people have found themselves having to live off their credit cards.
Yeah.
You know, they're not working or they're underemployed. And now suddenly they're in a mess. You know, it's pretty easy to stack up a lot of credit card debt if you're using it to pay all your utility bills and things like that. So how do you turn that around?
Well, I know from personal experience because the first half of my adult career, I like to say, I was deeply in debt and broke. In the early 80s, I remember living in a small matchbox house. The rent was just $200. My father-in-law owned the house. I couldn't even make the $200 a month.
Wow.
Had $50,000 of credit card debt back then. My Cadillac in the front of our house was repossessed one night. I'll never forget my 8-year-old saying, "Daddy, Daddy, someone stole our car." And I'm like, to myself, "No, son, I was 3 months behind. They repossessed it." I even went to a credit counseling service for help. They said, "You have so much debt, we can't help you." They turned me down.
Wow.
So I have been there, I've lived it, and I realized that it was up to me to get myself out. And eventually I became debt-free, no mortgage, no auto payments, no credit cards, nothing. It can be done in whatever economy, and no matter what the stock market is doing or what home equity is doing, but you have to get serious, is what I call, in my book I call it war on debt with an exclamation point. War on debt. You've got to get angry at debt. Because it's almost like you're in bondage, you're in chains. It's like the old, was it Bob Marley and A Wonderful Life? Not Wonderful Life, Scrooge.
Yeah.
All the chains that he's dragging. That's what debt is. So once we get mad about it, in my book I talk about listing them and paying them off one by one so you can one day be completely financially free of debt.
So it's interesting because you had that journey through your car being repossessed and debt and all of that. But I mean, now you have a thriving business.
Yeah, I mean, I got myself out of debt, and I got so interested in helping my family and others financially that I became a financial advisor in the last 24 years in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, I have probably 1,000 clients that I've helped them to eliminate debt and have a secure financial future. I was on the cover of a magazine a couple of years ago, Senior Market Advisor magazine. They called me the man with the plan. So now I coach 1,000 advisors across the country on how to best put together a complete financial plan for their clients. So it's really become a passion and a mission for me to help all Americans to build, and you said it right, I want to help Americans to build a financial fortress. And that image of almost a castle around your money, your family, and your future. It can be done, and I have a step-by-step process called the Checks and Balances Financial Success System that uses what we call, trademarked, the No Check Act decision-making process to build that financial fortress around you and your family.
So the Checks and Balances system, why do you call it that?
That really came to me a couple of years ago, that every product, every insurance policy, every investment has pros and cons, pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages. And we can't let some salesman, some stockbroker say, "This is best for you, buy this," because they're making a commission on that. We have to know ourselves. So the checks and balances is we give people the power and the information to really check a product or service out. And to know about it, and then to have a little checklist of the pros and cons of it, and then they can act intelligently if they should buy it or invest in it, or if they should not.
You know, you raise an important point, is that if your financial advisor works for a bank, they're going to push the products for the bank, not necessarily what might be right for you. So how do you determine who's going to give you the balanced insight?
I love that question. Thank you for asking that question, because I have a real passion for helping Americans find what I call a true financial advisor. True financial advisor means 3 quick things. Number 1, they're independent. So if your advisor works at the bank or for a brokerage firm or an insurance company or a mutual fund company, fire them, because they do not work for you. They work for their boss. They don't sell what the boss wants to sell. They're out the door. So you want somebody who's truly independent. Number 2, you want someone who has an insurance license and a securities license. If they're only insurance licensed, they're only going to sell you insurance products. And if they're a stockbroker that's just securities licensed, they're going to sell you mutual funds all day. You need to have a mixture of both. And the third thing is that your advisor needs to be held to a fiduciary responsibility. Big word. What that means is they have a Series 65 or 66. It simply means that they don't just offer products that are suitable to you, like there's 20,000 mutual funds and they pick the one that gives them the biggest commission. A fiduciary responsibility means it has to be the best one of the 20,000, that it will serve the client best, not their own pocketbook best. Those are the three things.
So that sounds like incredibly just practical and sound advice. So there's a lot of people out there today who don't trust the stock market. I mean, they just don't. They think the stock market, wow, it's volatile, I don't trust it.
It is.
What would you say to them?
You have to know how to harness the volatility of the stock market.
That sounds scary, Matt.
Harness
Harness? Like ride the horse?
the ups and downs. Hang on to the wheel. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's what I call being a 21st century investor today. See, all the rules have changed. We're in a new financial reality. If you have a stockbroker that when you lost in 08 and 09, 40%, and you said, hey, what do I do? And if he says, well, just hang in there, the market always comes back. You need to fire that person because they're not giving what I call sound financial strategy. That's a lazy man's way to riches.
Right.
Hang in there and hopefully it'll come back for you. The big institutional banks out there, a lot of folks don't know this, they make money whether the market goes up, whether it goes down.
Right.
And so we have to know how to capture some of our gains and reduce or eliminate our losses altogether. In my book, in one of the chapters is Stop Losing Money in the Market, Capture Your Gains. And I reveal in there how to get a hold of these investment products that can capture your gains in the market and have no downside risk.
Let's take a look at your book for a second. What was your favorite part about writing it?
Well, the favorite part of my book, all the rules have changed, what you must do to succeed in the new financial reality, is that it's really kind of an autobiographical book about myself. And my publisher said, the thing I like the most about it is not just facts and figures and graphs and charts and you should save and reduce debt, but it's my journey, it's my story, because I lived through it. I'm a shining example of how I raised myself from failure to success,
Right.
and the pain that I went through to get to this point. So I think that most people, they recognize and they appreciate somebody who's been through it themselves. And I like to say, there's an old saying, you cannot lead where you will not go, and you cannot teach what you do not know. And unfortunately, there's a lot of talking heads out there giving advice on finances that have never been in the financial services industry or haven't been in 20, 25 years. I live and breathe this industry, and so I talk from personal experience.
Well, and there's a lot of people out there in financial services who've never seen the bottom.
Yes, exactly.
And if you haven't seen the bottom, how can you relate to somebody who's suddenly found themselves there unexpectedly?
Yeah, and the other thing too is, and I hope this comes across, I have such a real heart and a passion to help people, to encourage them, to give them hope. I hear some of these talking heads, and I won't mention names, of course, they're almost condescending. They're talking down, almost ridiculing the people. Yeah, scolding.
You know.
And what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter how long you've been down and how high your debt is, there's a way out. And it's taking a little step every day, and I'm going to show you how to do it and give you a system to make sure it will happen if you apply it.
You know, I read your book, and part of what I liked about it so much is you're very specific. You know, you give like step 1, step 2, step 3, and I think that that's what's needed. Yeah. You know, because when we speak in higher philosophies, sometimes the practical aspect is missing.
Yeah, major polls across the country is the average American thinks that finances are way over their head, it's too confusing. Well, it's because financial institutions and advisors have made it confusing. But in my 5 financial truths, I call them, is that it's not as complicated as the experts are saying. There's some basic things you can learn on your own and know to make good financial decisions, to become a savvy investor and smarter consumer.
So Matt, someone sitting at home right now, you're watching this show and you're thinking, you know, I really should pay more attention to my finances, but I don't really know where to start. So can you give us like 3 things that you can do today, no matter where you're at, just to start to begin to build that fortress? Maybe it's like brick level number 1, you know?
Yeah, here's the first 3 bricks. Number 1 is if you're married or have a significant other, you want to sit down with them and have a discussion about finances.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and that's not always easy. You don't want any, as I've heard this term, and I think it's a good term, you don't want any financial infidelity. You know, if you have your money and I have my money and you don't get to see mine, I don't get to see yours, you can't really build on that. So you need to all be on the same page. Number 2 is you have to really take a hard look and see where are you now, where would you like to be. We all dream about, you know, being debt-free, taking that vacation, going first class and paying it with cash, or having enough money for the kids for college, or enough for retirement. So we have to really sit down and outline what is it we really want. And number 3 is how are we going to get there? which is a part of reducing and eliminating debt, saving consistently, investing wisely, and again, protecting against those unknown things in the future that can pop up.
You know, you talk about something that's really fun. It's like, what's that big dream? You know, what's my money dream?
Yeah.
And it's hard to even put that in your mindset when you just feel burdened or you're uncertain about the future. Yeah. But why is it important to have that vision?
Because that's the goodie, that's the goal, that's the payoff.
The carrot.
So that's, yeah. So I tell people, you know, we're going to do all these tough things now, but as you're going along paying off debt and saving for an emergency fund and saving for retirement, you have to reward yourself. Mm-hmm. And maybe after you pay off, you know, $2,000 of debt, you go to a real nice dinner, steak dinner, Ruth's Chris somewhere.
And pay cash.
And pay, absolutely, have to pay cash. No more credit card unless
Right.
you're paying it in full every month.
Right.
But throughout the journey, you are rewarding yourself. Maybe then it's a weekend getaway. Maybe it's in a trip. Maybe it's in a cruise. You're paying cash, but you're rewarding yourself as you're going down this path. And so it's very important to do the tough things, but reward yourself along the way.
That sounds like wise advice. So let's look at what's been happening in housing, because I know you write about that. And
Yes.
a lot of people were viewing their home equity as their savings plan.
Yeah.
And now they don't have any savings.
Yeah, it was a huge mistake, and it's all a part of greed. A part of the greed from the mortgage institutions and the banks, but also us as individuals, because back before 08 and 09, I mean, these mortgage companies were handing out mortgages. They wouldn't even check your credit score. They wouldn't verify your employment. If you could breathe and write your name, you could have a mortgage
Right.
for 110% of what you were asking.
Right.
And we thought, oh, I get the home of my dreams for no money down. I can go to a furniture store, and with no money down, I can put furniture in. And suddenly, when the economy took a dip in 08 and 09, upside down, now we have millions of people in foreclosure who are now out on the street or renting somewhere, living with family. So it's really important that we ourselves don't allow free credit, easy credit, to take advantage of us. And that's a hard lesson that people are learning.
So Matt, where can we find your book? Best-selling book, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you, I'm so excited about that as well. That just means I'm getting it out into a lot of people's hands, and
Yes.
I'm going to help them to become financially free like I've been able to do. Easiest website is alltheruleshavechanged.com. Just go to alltheruleshavechanged.com. You'll see the book. I even have some bonuses I'm giving away to further help people on their road to building a financial fortress around themselves, their money, and their family.
All the rules have changed. What you must do to succeed in the new financial reality. Matt Rettick, best-selling author, thank you so much for being here with us.
It's been a great privilege and joy to be back again, Kristen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.